I ran into my high school bully at a reunion, and she mocked me publicly. Then she realized who owned her company now. Hi, I'm Daniel Crow, 41, and the last person I expected to see at my high school reunion was the woman who made my teenage years hell, standing 5 feet from me, smirking like she'd never left. She said it casually, loud enough for the people around us to hear. Some people peak in high school, she said, swirling her champagne. The quiet ones usually vanish. I always wondered what happened to them. Her eyes were locked on me. The gym at Riverside Academy looked exactly the same. Cheap streamers, rented lights, the same warped basketball court floor. But the power dynamic? That had changed. Drastically. 23 years earlier, I'd been the scholarship kid. The poor one. The boy who rode 2 buses at dawn because his father's factory job barely kept the lights on. Riverside was a private school in upstate New York where tuition cost more than my parents made in a year. I got in because I tested off the charts, and because the school liked bragging about opportunity. Lauren Whitmore hated that from day one. She was untouchable royalty, daughter of a real estate mogul. Perfect hair, perfect smile, president of everything. She noticed my thrift store blazer, my cracked phone, the lunches I pretended not to eat so I could take leftovers home. And she made sure everyone else noticed too. She called me voucher boy. She spilled iced coffee on my backpack, twice. She spread a rumor that I'd stolen exam answers, which earned me a week-long investigation and a permanent note in my file. Teachers saw it. Administrators knew. But Lauren's father funded the new arts wing, so consequences mysteriously evaporated. I survived by disappearing in plain sight. I graduated 3rd in my class. Lauren was furious. It was supposed to be her moment. I left for college with a full scholarship and never looked back. Or so I thought. What Lauren didn't know, what she was about to learn, was that I hadn't disappeared. I'd been building. And standing there in that gym, listening to her recycle the same tired line from 1999, I realized something that made me almost laugh. This reunion wasn't for nostalgia. It was timing. And the universe, apparently, has a dark sense of humor. Lauren's friends laughed on cue. Not loudly, just enough to signal allegiance. Same choreography, different decade. I smiled politely, the way you do when you're deciding whether to correct someone or let them keep talking long enough to embarrass themselves. She tilted her head. So, she said, scanning my tailored suit like it was a costume that didn't quite belong to me. What do you do now, Daniel? Please tell me you didn't become a poet. A couple people chuckled. I run a company, I said. Oh. Her eyebrow lifted. Like a startup? That word, loaded with condescension. Translation, something temporary. Something cute. Something like that. She took a sip of champagne, already bored. Well, good for you. It's nice to see some of us landing on our feet. Some of us. What she didn't realize was that 3 months earlier, my company had finalized the acquisition of Northbridge Consulting, a regional operations firm headquartered 15 minutes from that gym. I hadn't recognized the name at first. But my COO had. Daniel, she'd said during a briefing, scrolling through a slide deck. One of their senior directors has a reputation. HR complaints. Turnover issues. You might want to look at this. The name on the screen had stopped me cold. Lauren Whitmore. 8 years at Northbridge. Multiple internal warnings. 0 promotions in the last 4. Described, politely, as challenging. Described, accurately, as toxic. Back in the gym, Lauren leaned closer, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor. Listen, she said, fake sincere. High school was a long time ago. No hard feelings, right? We were kids. We were kids. Funny how that excuse only works when the kid with power grows up and keeps it. I reached into my jacket pocket, not dramatically, just casually, and pulled out a card. Matte black. Minimalist. Clean. Here, I said, handing it to her. In case you're curious. She took it with 2 fingers, already smirking. Then she read it. Really read it. Her lips parted slightly. Her smile didn't disappear, but it froze, like someone had hit pause on her face. She looked up, down, back at the card, then at me. You're that Daniel Crow? She asked. I nodded. CEO. Founder. The chatter around us softened as people sensed something shifting. Lauren's friends leaned in, suddenly invested. She laughed once. Too sharp. That's funny, she said. Because Northbridge Consulting was acquired by my company. I finished for her. Last quarter. Silence. Her glass trembled just enough for me to notice. Oh, she said. Well, that's small world. Very, I agreed. And that's when she made her first mistake of the night. She smiled and said, guess that makes us colleagues. I didn't correct her. I just let the moment stretch. I let out a small breath, almost a laugh. Not exactly, I said. Lauren's smile flickered. Just a millisecond. But I saw it. I'd learned long ago how to notice cracks. What do you mean? She asked. Before I could answer, the DJ's microphone screeched. Someone announced a toast. Applause rippled across the gym. The moment broke, but not in her favor. Lauren didn't step away. She stayed planted, like if she moved, the ground might shift under her feet. I leaned in, keeping my voice calm. Friendly. Deadly. Northbridge's executive structure was dissolved after the acquisition, I said. We folded most teams into our existing operations group. Her eyes searched my face. Okay, and senior directors were reviewed individually. That did it. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. Reviewed how? Performance. Culture fit. HR history. I paused. Leadership impact. One of her friends, Melissa, I think, took a step back. Physical distance. Instinctive. Lauren swallowed. Daniel, if this is about high school. It's not, I said gently. That wasn't a lie. Not entirely. This is about patterns, I continued. And data. And decisions made months ago by people who had no idea you and I ever shared a classroom. She opened her mouth. Closed it. I could almost hear the math running in her head. Severance packages. LinkedIn updates. Mortgage payments. Am I being let go? She whispered. I didn't answer immediately. I glanced around instead. The gym felt smaller now. Conversations had slowed. Eyes were drifting toward us. High school never really ends. It just gets quieter and more expensive. You'll get an email Monday morning, I said finally. Same as everyone else affected. Her voice shook. You can't do this. I have a team. I've given that company years. And they documented every complaint filed against you during those years, I replied. 8, to be exact. Her face drained of color. That's not fair, she said. Those people were sensitive. I push for excellence. I nodded. That's what you said in every response memo. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. You planned this, she accused. You came here to humiliate me. I shook my head. No, Lauren. I came here because this place stopped owning space in my head a long time ago. Then I looked her straight in the eyes, the same way she used to look down at me from lockers and stairwells. You just happened to still be standing in it. Her glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. No one laughed this time. And that's when she started to cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet enough to be real. Lauren tried to recover fast. Too fast. She wiped her face, straightened her shoulders, and did that thing she'd always done, turned fear into offense. This is abuse of power, she said louder now. You're punishing me because you couldn't handle high school. A few heads nodded. Not in agreement, confusion, discomfort. I kept my voice even. You're welcome to have a lawyer review the acquisition timeline. It's airtight. You think you're better than me now? She snapped. I almost laughed. Almost. I don't think about you, I said. And that one landed harder than anything else. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. You were the loudest person in the room. I was the quiet one in the back. Do you know what that gave me? She shook her head, breathing unevenly. Time, I said. And focus. She started to say something. Maybe an apology, maybe a threat. But someone else stepped in. Daniel. I turned to see Evan Morales, our old chemistry lab partner. Glasses now. Dad posture. Nervous smile. I just wanted to say, I saw what she did back then, he said. I didn't stop it. I should have. I'm sorry. Lauren stared at him like he'd betrayed a religion. I nodded. Thank you. That was it. No speech. No absolution ceremony. Lauren looked around. The crowd wasn't on her side. Not anymore. Power has gravity. People feel it shift. She grabbed her purse and pushed past us, heels clicking too fast, too loud. The doors slammed behind her. The music restarted. Slowly. Awkwardly. Someone clapped. Then stopped. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 20 years. That night, 3 people approached me to apologize. 2 more sent messages the next day. None of it changed the past, but it closed a door I didn't realize was still open. Monday came. The emails went out. Lauren hired an attorney. No case. Clean restructuring. Generous severance. Mandatory leadership training classes she refused to attend. She posted a rant online about corporate revenge culture. It got 6 likes. 2 were from bots. A month later, Northbridge's remaining staff hit record profits. Funny how that works. I thought that would be the end of it. Reunion closed. Chapter sealed. Life back to spreadsheets, board calls, and red-eye flights. Then the letter arrived. No return address. Plain envelope. My name written carefully, like the writer had practiced and erased a dozen times before committing. I didn't open it right away. There's a particular weight to things you never expected to receive. You can feel it through paper. Inside was 1 page. Handwritten. She didn't start with my name. She started with, "I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to write it anyway. Lauren." She didn't mention the reunion. Not directly. She didn't mention the job, either. Instead, she talked about high school. About how she'd learned early that being cruel made people listen. How approval felt like oxygen. How she mistook control for confidence and never learned the difference. She wrote, "I told myself you were fine. That you'd forget. That it wasn't that bad." Then the line that stopped me. "Losing my job didn't break me. Realizing I deserved to lose it did." She said she'd started therapy. That her silence now felt louder than her voice ever had. That she was finally alone with herself and didn't like the company. She apologized. Not cleverly. Not strategically. Clumsily. Unevenly. Honestly. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. I didn't reply. Some apologies aren't requests. They're confessions. And confessions don't require forgiveness to be true. That night, I went home late. My wife was already asleep. The city lights stretched across the windows like a circuit board. Order, logic, systems that worked. I stood there thinking about the kid I used to be. The one who learned early how to be invisible. How to survive by shrinking. I realized something then. Success didn't heal me. Clarity did. Knowing I never imagined it. Knowing it mattered. Knowing I wasn't weak. I was just outnumbered. And I'd won anyway. A week after the letter, I did something I'd never done before. I went back to Riverside Academy. Not for a ceremony. Not for a donation photo op. Just a quiet meeting with the head of student affairs. Different administration now. Different mission statements on the walls. I told them why I was there. I told them about being investigated over a rumor. About walking hallways with my head down because silence was safer. About how money had spoken louder than truth back then. They listened. Actually listened. 2 months later, Riverside announced a new anonymous reporting system. Mandatory anti-bullying training. External oversight for disciplinary reviews involving donors' families. Was it because of me alone? Probably not. But I like to think timing matters. At work, something else changed too. I started mentoring interns personally. The quiet ones. The ones who didn't interrupt, who sent follow-up emails instead of raising their hands. I recognized the posture. The restraint. One afternoon, a junior analyst named Noah stayed after a meeting. "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" he said. "Sure. Did you always know you'd end up here?" I smiled. "No. I just knew I wasn't done yet." He nodded like that meant more than any career advice I could have given. That night, I framed 2 things for my office. One was my first business license. Laminated, crooked, filed when I was 22 and terrified. The other was my high school diploma. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Every system that tried to filter me out. Every door that stayed closed until I learned how to build my own. Lauren faded from my life after that. No more posts. No more updates. Just quiet. And for the first time, I hoped that quiet was doing for her what it once did for me. Teaching her who she really was. About 6 months later, my assistant forwarded me a calendar invite I hadn't expected. Subject line, guest speaker request. Riverside Academy. They were hosting a career week. Alumni panels. The usual polished success stories. At the bottom of the email, a line caught my eye. "Several students specifically requested you after reading about your work." I almost declined. Then I remembered the kid I'd been. Sitting in the back row, counting minutes until the bell, convinced the world had already decided who mattered. So I said yes. I didn't wear a suit that day. Just a plain jacket. No logos. No flash. I stood in the same auditorium where Lauren once accepted a leadership award while I clapped politely from the shadows. The students were restless at first. Phones out. Arms crossed. So I skipped the resume. "I'm not here to tell you how to get rich," I said. "I'm here to tell you how to survive being underestimated." That got their attention. I told them about riding buses at dawn. About learning to be quiet because noise drew fire. About how intelligence doesn't always look confident at 16. I said, if you're invisible right now, that doesn't mean you're empty. It means you're still loading. A girl in the third row wiped her eyes. A boy in the back stopped pretending not to care. Afterward, they lined up with questions. Real ones. Scared ones. One kid asked, what if they never apologize? I answered honestly. Then you stop waiting. As I was leaving, a teacher stopped me. You know, she said softly, Lauren Whitmore used to give talks here too. About leadership. I nodded. I know. She won't be anymore. I didn't feel victory. I felt closure. The kind that doesn't cheer. The kind that exhales. I keep my office simple now. Glass desk. Neutral walls. No awards on display. Just two framed items behind me. The first is a photo of my parents on the day I signed my first major contract. My father's hands were still stained from machine oil. My mother cried like she'd been holding her breath for decades. The second is my old Riverside Academy ID card. 16-year-old me. Bad haircut. Too big blazer. Eyes that look cautious, but stubborn. I keep it there because success has a short memory if you let it. Every once in a while, I get an email from someone who heard that speech. A former student. A quiet intern. Someone who says, I thought something was wrong with me until I heard your story. Nothing was ever wrong with us. We were just early. Lauren never contacted me again. I heard, secondhand, that she moved out of state. New job. Smaller role. Fewer eyes. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's just consequence. Either way, it's not mine to manage. What is mine is this. The quiet ones don't disappear. They observe. They adapt. They build. And one day, without warning, they stop asking for permission. If you were ever the kid they overlooked, the employee they talked over, the person they assumed would stay small, you don't need revenge. You need momentum. And when the day comes that they finally ask, what happened to you? Smile. Because the best answer is the life you're already living. A year after that speech, I got a message on LinkedIn that made me stop in the middle of a hallway between meetings. Hi, Daniel. You probably don't remember me. I was a freshman at Riverside when you spoke. I was the girl who asked what to do if they never apologize. Her name was Hannah Lou. She wrote that she'd been accepted into college. First in her family. Full financial aid. She said she replayed my answer in her head every time she felt like she didn't belong. Then you stop waiting. I didn't realize, she wrote, that I'd been waiting my whole life. I sat in my office longer than usual that night, rereading the message. Not because it was flattering, but because it confirmed something I'd only suspected. What we survive quietly doesn't disappear. It echoes. Not long after, I ran into Lauren again. Not in person. In an article. A local business journal ran a short profile on a mid-level operations manager who had restarted her career after a difficult corporate transition. No photo. No quotes. Just a name I recognized instantly. I didn't feel satisfaction reading it. No spike of pride. No sense of victory. What I felt instead surprised me. Relief. She wasn't a ghost from my past anymore. She was just another adult, living with the consequences of her own patterns. And for the first time, she didn't take up any space in my chest. People like to think revenge is loud. It isn't. Revenge is exhausting. It keeps you tethered to a version of yourself that needed armor just to survive the day. What actually changes your life is distance. Distance from the voices that named you wrong. Distance from rooms where power was used like a weapon. Distance from the idea that being quiet meant being weak. I didn't win because Lauren lost. I won because I stopped measuring myself against her at all. Every year now, I do one thing that never shows up on a balance sheet. I fund 2 anonymous scholarships. No press. No ceremony. No name attached. They go to students who test high but come from homes where ambition has to share space with survival. Kids who don't talk much. Kids who don't interrupt. Kids who think success is something that happens to other people. I never meet them. That's the point. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The people who hurt you early don't get to define your ending. And they don't get to follow you forever, unless you keep the door open. The quiet ones don't peak early. They peak late. They peak deep. They build lives so full that the past eventually stops knocking. And when someone from long ago looks at you and says, I always wondered what happened to you, you don't owe them an explanation. Your life already answered.